Hello Whovians and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review Attack of the Cybermen, which is the 137th Doctor Who story overall, and Colin Baker's second story as the 6th Doctor. This is also the story that begins season 22 of Doctor Who. So the plot of Attack of the Cybermen is as follows. While trying to fix the TARDIS's chameleon circuit, the Doctor returns to Foreman's Yard on Totter's Lane in 1985, where he meets his old enemies, the Cybermen. They have come from the future to change history by sending Halley's comet crashing into Earth. Gustav Lytton, last seen working for the Daleks, is involved in the Cybermen's plot. Is Lytton working for the Cybermen himself or someone else? It's worthy to note, Attack of the Cybermen, this would be the first story in the classic series that would change the format of the episodes. We normally had 4 25-minute episodes. It would vary with the earlier Doctors, but with the end of Tom Baker's era and Davison, it would be all 4 parts, although Davison would sometimes have 2 parts. This story, we get 2 45-minute episodes. Yeah, so basically the length of a new series episode is the length here. So the story still is a similar length to an average 4-parter. It's just it's a tad bit shorter, but it's 2 long episodes. So, Attack of the Cybermen, I'm going to be perfectly honest and say I did not like this story. Don't get me wrong, it is a massive improvement over the Twin Dilemma. Yippee. But at the same time, this is an incredibly dull Doctor Who story. It's really boring. The first part of this story drags so much. It was like the Doctor and Perry just wander around aimlessly through London and then back into the TARDIS. And there's so many scenes in the TARDIS in this story. And you just think it's so unnecessarily padded out. When is this story going to get going? You know, I have a life. Come on. And it's just all boring. I mean, and as well, the scenes themselves are just not very good. It's just the Doctor and Perry bickering as they were before. Not to the extent of the Twin Dilemma, but, you know, Colin Baker is still coming across as a bit egotistical and a bit, you know, full of himself. And he's very condescending to Perry. So I'm sorry, I'm just still not convinced by Colin Baker in this story. I just don't think he's very good in this story, and I don't like his Doctor so far. Nicola Bryant, however, is good as Perry, and she is trying her best. She really is. But again, she can't be the only thing that keeps this afloat. Bless her. I just think the script is also nothing as well. The Cybermen themselves, they don't really do very much. I mean, considering this story is called Attack of the Cybermen, there ain't much attacking going on. Not until the second half of the story. We also get these 2 pointless filler characters. I don't know their names, actually. I've totally forgotten their names, but we see them on Telos trying to escape the cyber controller, and they're there for basically action scenes. And you know, they're over-actors as well. They just completely overperform to the point where it's hammy, and I just do not care. The Cybermen themselves, obviously, I mean, their design isn't bad, but the voices are really terrible. The voices are goofy and really just don't work for me. They're almost very laughable. But also, the cyber controller. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna rip this character apart. I mean, people have said, because he's overweight, you know, it's an issue, he shouldn't be like that. I can see where you're coming from, but I don't think that's the major issue. I think the major issue is the design of him. Like, on top of his head, he's got like a massive thing, like his helmet sticks up and out, and it's just ridiculous. It looks like he's got an egg on his head, or he looks like the guy from the Star Wars prequels who has the massive head. It reminds me of that. It just looks really goofy and really silly. This is where the campiness, again, really sort of starts to come into its own here. Also, you've got these other characters called the Cryons. They basically look like female versions of the Sensorites from William Hartnell's era. And they're goofy. Always talk like this. You know, you may as well call them the perverts because they keep touching people up, and it's sort of uncomfortable to watch, really. And there's so many deaths in this story, but all of them are so exaggerated and goofy, and I just got bored of this story. I mean, the action does get a bit better in the second part. There's a bit more action going on, so you know, that's good, and the set of the Cybermen base at the end is actually quite decent. So it's not all bad. It's not a train wreck, but it is pretty bad and it's pretty dull. And I don't know why the first part chose to build up so much to the Cybermen, and they don't appear till 25 minutes into the story, which would have been sort of the cliffhanger of the first part if it was a 4-part story. So perhaps it would have been better to keep to that original format. All the scenes in the underground sewer just drag, and when the guys in the sewer get killed, you just don't care. And there's also one scene which I find really pretty offensive, to be honest, is Colin Baker's Doctor tries to make Perry shoot one of the guys, and I feel that's just an out of character moment for the Doctor. The Doctor wouldn't do that. I just don't understand why he would do that. We're meant to assume by the end of the Twin Dilemma that his new body, his new regeneration is kind of stabilized. So this just to me doesn't feel right. It really doesn't feel right. It was written by Paula Moore, and I'm sorry, she's just not a very good writer. I just didn't really get much out of this story. I just thought her writing was very poor, to be honest. It's just incredibly padded out, and I think it's a bit long. You know, you could have reduced some of the scenes from part 1, and it might have flowed a bit better. But the story itself just isn't interesting. Bringing Lytton back, okay, fine. If you want to bring him back, bring him back. But I don't understand why you're trying to make him so sympathetic. I mean, they're obviously trying to give him some kind of redemption arc, but to me, it seems unnecessary. It just seems like a pointless story to tell. I mean, this guy was working with the Daleks in Resurrection of the Daleks with Davison, that Davison story. But here, like, he just seems completely unnecessary. I just don't understand why he's in it. And the fact that they tried to make his demise sort of tragic at the end, I don't know, I just don't buy it. I just think it's a really sort of stupid idea. And it's not like he's a character that we really cared about. It's not like Yates or someone from, you know, the unit team who goes bad and then who does try and have a redemption arc. That makes more sense. But Lytton, he's not a character that anybody really cared about, to be honest. And his death was so anticlimactic. I mean, the actual final climax of the story is very anticlimactic when the Doctor is shooting the Cybermen and the Cybermen end up shooting themselves and falling over, and it's really sloppily directed. The direction is incredibly sloppy by Matthew Robinson. Thank God it wasn't Matthew Waterhouse. But no, yeah, Matthew Robinson's direction is very poor. It's just there's no momentum to the story. It's too slow. The action is goofy, and again, the campiness is starting to really infect the show, and there's no passion there anymore. There is no passion for this show. It's like they're just going through the motions, and I hate to say that, but that's what I get from this story. So I don't have much else to say about it. Oh, I have to talk about this though. The soundtrack. The soundtrack is awful. I can't remember how it goes off the top of my head, but if you watch the story, you'll hear the soundtrack. It does not fit the story at all. There's so many synthesizers and everything. It's very 80s, and it does date it quite badly. So yeah, the soundtrack is awful for this story. I'm sorry. I just don't know if this new format is going to work. The whole 2 45-minute episode thing. For the new series, it works great, but I don't know. I mean, going forward, I'll see how it goes. But as for a final rating for this story, I'm gonna have to give it. I'll probably have to give it a 3 out of 10. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just couldn't really get into this story. It was incredibly dull. If you like it, that's fine. But to me, it just didn't do anything for me. That's my review of Attack of the Cybermen. Please comment down below. Let me know what you think of this story. And stay tuned next time when we talk about vengeance on Varos. Yes. So until next time, thank you very much. I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See you soon.